continuously work on self-development to understand that life is not easy, but let's not make it hard.
Welcome, everyone, to the Driving Vision podcast brought to you by the Zeigler Auto Group. I'm your host, Sam Dark. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, like it if you do, and leave a comment. Hey, Driving Vision fans, today we have a truly special guest joining us, 7-time Mr. Olympia champion Phil Heath, known for his incredible work ethic and unmatched dedication to the sport of bodybuilding. Phil has inspired countless athletes and fitness enthusiasts around the world. In this episode, we'll deep dive into his journey from his early days in the gym to his rise as one of sports legends. We'll explore the mindset that propelled him to success, his training regimen, and what he's up to now as he transitions beyond competition. So whether you're a diehard bodybuilding fan or just looking for some motivation to pursue your goals, you do not want to miss this conversation. So let's jump right in. Hey, everybody, welcome to this episode of the Driving Vision podcast. Joining us today, 7-time champion, Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath. And I know you don't like to be introduced that way, but that's how I'm going to set you up.
All good.
You are, Mike, as you talked about today, like someone that's won a Super Bowl 7 times, won a World Series 7 times. The level that you have excelled in this area is substantial. And you just spent time with us here at the Zeigler Auto Group in our locker room. So before I go to our big question, what's it like for you? What's it been like for you being here with Team Zeigler over these past couple of days?
Oh my gosh, it's been very fulfilling for me to be around a group of people who understand that to win requires a lot of drive, patience, mental fortitude, but the willingness to communicate effectively with others.
Yeah.
I think that's huge. It seems like you guys have like when I was in there in the locker room, it had family up there.
Yeah.
No, this is because of the knowledge that you guys have continuously poured into each and every one of all your clients. So it was very comfortable for me. I didn't give like the normal, it has to be this way, very rigid, structured speech. It was more free flowing because I was just like, I needed to allow myself to be with the family and not be 7-time Mr. Olympia, but then Phil Heath.
Which, by the way, is pretty cool because we always talk, Mike, we always talk about how we compete together to make each other better. Mm-hmm. And there's a difference between competing together to get better, to achieve a family goal, than trying to kill each other, right?
Correct. I mean, we all love that healthy competition.
Yeah.
But it can get very toxic.
Yeah.
And it usually is derived of someone not feeling important.
Yeah.
And I've mentioned it before, not feeling seen or heard.
Yeah.
Or both. And having some traumatic moments early on in life that just through you adapting through those troubles made you say, well, this is my time. Screw you. This is my time. When really, when it comes to a team aspect, it's like, no, it's our time. And you'll still be acknowledged. You can still be a part of a championship team and still be the most valuable player.
Yeah.
But doesn't it feel to win with a team and show some real effective leadership? I think so.
Wow. You know, those words, and then we'll ask our big question, remind me of what Kirk Gibson, who joined us. He's a 2-time World Series champion baseball player and was responsible for 2 of the most iconic moments in sports history. He said the same thing Monday night when he spoke to us. He said his coach said, it doesn't matter if you get that World Series, if you do it by yourself and you do it out of resentment for other people. But if you join that team and you do it together and you're vulnerable together and you work together towards that, it means everything, right?
Absolutely. I mean, you're trying to, I can only imagine what it would feel like to be on a big team like that. And him rounding those bases, doing it's one of those things where I'm sure because of his intention, hard work, everything, they all could celebrate with him.
Yeah,
you would always want to be able to have that sense of joy that people also on that team were happy for you.
Yeah,
and I believe that he was able to experience that. And with all that said, I mean, create a great memory.
Yeah,
I mean, they created a memory,
a bond.
I mean,
yes.
Unbreakable bond. Because I know that those teams, those sports teams, they have like those reunions.
Yeah.
I'm sure they're always happy to see one another. They get to relive those things. But like you said earlier, if you were to do it through the negativity, the anger, frustration, resentment, you'd say, yeah, we won, but screw that guy. I don't really care about that person. Really? You don't care? Yeah, man.
Yeah.
He's a jerk. He's this. I personally would not like that.
No.
Yeah.
So you're 7-time champion. You hang with the likes of Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? In the same class as, you have a documentary, which is cool as heck. I watched it yesterday. It's available on Apple everywhere. The Rock was involved with that.
Yes.
You've done incredible things. You hang with incredible people. You've moved past this bodybuilding phase of your career. So our big question is, what's your vision of the world today? And how are you working today in this moment of life to change the world, to continue changing the world? You've already changed it, right?
I think you take it, as you were saying, I take a deep breath because I realize that the world has always been the world, man. I mean, it's always been filled with a lot of depressed people that are just trying to find their way. Yeah. A lot of anger, frustration, people that had those limiting beliefs based on what societal pressures has put onto them. But then there's also hope. And we find that within maybe a coach, an idol that they may find nowadays on social media. But it could be a pastor, it could be a teammate, usually you would say a family member, but I realize now there's a lot of families that are broken. Yeah. And it's because they lack secure attachment. And those parents don't necessarily have the words to know how to illustrate their thoughts. So if they can't communicate clearly as to what they're feeling, they're not emotionally capable of helping their kids. So now they walk around, lights are on, but no one's home. And the kid now has to learn, like, is dad really upset or is he just thinking about something else? But the dad ain't telling the kids that he just endured some hell at work. Yeah. And the mom doesn't know how to communicate, but yet they have this family. So we live in a world that there's a lot of people that are highly disconnected, even though we should be more connected. Yeah. But I see my passion and my path now beyond the stage is to remind, especially young men and even older men, you're not alone in your thoughts, man. You don't have to be alone there. You're going to be alone, but you're not alone as far as like the pain that you may have endured, the words that that drown out your dream, that suffocate you at night, that keep you up at night because you were told that you were no good, and that decrease your worth instead of empower you to feel worthy. So my job is to remind people that you are worthy for incredible things, but it's what's in here. Yeah. And in here, not in here, that you got to remember that even on my worst day, I know that I still got breath in these lungs, so therefore I can get to work and I can work on myself. And more importantly, self-development, it should be beyond, I would say for me, faith is number one, but self-development has to be there. Because if I don't have self-development, that means I think I know everything. And that means I have a very fixed mindset, instead of a growth mindset. I could not come here and expect to learn something from each of you guys if I just said, well, I know everything. It's like, no, dude. So for the world, we have to be a little bit more calm. We have to stay accountable, but we also have to show compassion to ourselves first and then work on that self-development.
That's amazing.
Phil, in relation to use the word pain, your winning mindset, what's your view of pain and obstacles?
I mean, pain can be, the trauma that you had growing up. For me, it could be, for instance, a lot of parents are getting ready for Christmas and stuff, right? So my birthday's a week before. And I remember 2 consecutive years, our house got broken into. That was painful to watch. Yeah. You were wondering, like, where's my toys? Why is this like this? Why can my parents ensure that we live in a safer place? It was painful to see your stuff ransacked. But then you realize that some things just aren't fair. Pain would be having someone who you would consider a friend betray you, and maybe in business. And you realize that it wasn't the fact that they were intentionally trying to hurt you. They were just trying to fulfill their dream. And that meant that you weren't going to survive in this business, and that their intention was just to be famous, maybe to make some more money, and you weren't included in that. That was more their problem. So I've had to deal with those different types of pain. But to leverage it, I think requires a lot of vulnerability. And what I shared earlier was I'm guilty of numbing the pain. Going to the gym, I feel like you can numb the pain. You can get through that day, that horrible event that may have occurred, by going to the gym. And they always say even breakups make great bodybuilders, right? Yeah. but you're still dealing with that pain because the next time you meet an individual, male or female, right, you end up talking about your ex. You didn't really deal with it. You just masked it and now you look better, but are you really feeling better? No. Deeply rooted issues requires a lot of self-seeking of the answer. And I think that it requires solace. I think if you were to maybe disconnect from the phone, still communicate with your coworkers and say, hey, look, like this weekend, I know I got a list of things, but let me get ahead of this now because I'm going to take these 48 hours and really recharge. So then I can understand who the hell I am, what I'm trying to do, where my flaws are, and just write it out. Murder board it out if you got to, because we shouldn't live throughout pain. We shouldn't live with it. We got to get rid of it so then we can experience some happy moments, man. Otherwise, you end up looking like the person that makes everything look daunting.
Yeah.
Everything's daunting. We've been around those guys, right? Like everything. How's it going? Man, like it's like
Everything's massive.
Like everything is like a big deal. It's like, bro, like you have area loves. What are you talking about? Like, what are you talking about? You drive a nice car. You got a house. Like you forgot. Well, I still got problems, man. It's like, no, you got solutions to those problems. You just refuse to acknowledge it because you want someone to feel sorry for you. What you need to do is be in more gratitude and remember your lineage of how you got here. You adapted through all this trouble. Kick some more butt, man.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just your call to greatness that you're just refusing to answer. So it's a lot of that goes into that.
So you got your first title is 2011.
Yes.
You went through a journey where you learned this firsthand, right? Like you talked about shooting baskets as a kid so that others could see. You talked about your transition through high school sports and just lighting up over playing basketball, knowing and feeling and sensing, despite your ability to dunk, maybe a little too short, going into D1 sports in Colorado and having that excruciating moment of realizing you're not going to make that, but wanting to be great. How did you come to this worldview where it's what you're talking about now, which is so counter to not only social media, but just the sensibility of any pro athlete, right?
I mean, we're dealing with a lot of mental health right now because it's not being addressed head on.
Yeah. COVID made it worse.
I truly believe
we stopped talking to each other.
Yeah. We really stopped talking to each other. We show lack of empathy to both sides.
Yeah.
Because we just lack compassion, and that's unfortunate. And people are still like not speaking to family members or friends because of it. A lot of people can't even raise their hand and say I was wrong either.
Yeah.
And I think that that's like a sense of feeling like a mature, functional adult is to be like, you know what? My intention was not to hurt your feelings, but I know I did.
Yeah.
And that sucks to see that we haven't connected over the last 3 years because of what I did to you. Man, I'm sorry. Man, if I could do it all over again, I would never have done that. But I hope that you can see that this is coming from sincere, and I'm not expecting you to accept it.
Yeah.
But I hope that you can believe that I want the best for you.
Yeah.
But those are words that like I had to learn to, and it's just, like I said, just through, hell, I had to hire a therapist to understand, like, I don't have the tools to be able to communicate effectively. We have sales coaches to learn how to go from marketing to creative marketing, right? You need those people that are experts that have done the work. And it's something like a muscle that has to be used all the time for it to stick.
Yeah.
The world is already wicked. Why be wicked yourself?
Yeah.
A lot of people feel like, well, I need to be hyper vigilant to deal with the world. Now, I will say, if you have that piece of you in you, you don't have to kill that person. Keep that warrior still in you. DEFCON 1 happens.
Yeah.
But you should not walk through life hyper vigilant.
Always a battle.
Because you're walking, and I did that, walking around with a scowl on your face every day to let people know that I mean business. Dude, like your 7-time Mr. Olympia, I think everybody with a brain would know that you mean business when you go to the gym, when you're integral with your food and everything else. And same with sales and whatnot. Like if you're top of your sales, like you don't have to like, what are we doing? Yeah. We're just, I don't know, we're experiencing something, I would say, very different because of the social media aspect. The false bravado, I think, is very big because if I puff my chest out big enough, I can get more followers than I can sell stuff to, whether we sell it through fear, manipulation. But for me, it's more like I would want to sell everyone on themselves. I'm selling you You need to know you're one of one, number one. That means you're a non-duplicatable asset. That should mean something to you, because anything else in this world is a non-duplicatable asset that has a high value, right?
Yeah.
So
I love that. That's awesome.
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
we're talking about cars and stuff. We're talking about one of one. We know that's worth something.
Oh, yeah.
But that's you.
Yeah.
But you're going ahead and just scratching it all up and this and that, and not even believing that you're worse.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to me.
Yeah.
But the society, they make you feel, because of the comparison, I got to compare myself to you, man, just compare yourself to your performance from yesterday. Ask yourself what you learned. If you didn't learn anything, ask yourself why. Well, it's because I was screwing around. Okay, well, do those habits actually come to a conclusion that you're going to have a triumphant moment? No. Then if your lights were getting turned off, meaning your life was going to be over, what would you want the story to read?
Yeah.
And I think we all have said this probably, but then we forget. And I think the people that keep that in their mind and have those check-ins, they're the ones that hold themselves highly accountable, and they experience those great moments.
In fact, you talk about, when you think about that highly accountable, one of the quotes that I love, especially coming from a business perspective, is, and you said this early on, you wanted to be great at basketball. Ultimately, you said, I will be great. I will be pro at something.
Yeah.
Right? And you said that, you put that out there, but you also said, if you want to be the best, if you want to be great at something, you've got to own it all, right?
Everything.
What is that mindset like? Owning it all.
Is having that growth mindset of knowing that I don't have it all figured out.
Yeah.
I think I do, based on maybe things that I've seen or read about, but I personally don't have it all figured out because I haven't actually done it yet.
Yeah. Owning it all isn't all about ego then.
You have to conquer it.
Yeah.
You have to conquer the shame, the guilt, the regret that goes into goal setting, man. Like, some people shame themselves into doing something. Some people have negative self-talk to get themselves to move. I understand that may happen, but if you keep that going for a long period of time, you numb everything. So you numb the bad and the good. You don't get to experience a great career. You're the one that is pissed off at the end of your career.
Wow.
And we've known people like that. We've seen people like that. They're a former CEO. Oh, I've had 3 exits, this and that and the other. And he still wants to kill himself. Yeah. Because he doesn't feel fulfilled. Well, you don't feel fulfilled because you didn't enjoy it. Like, you say you had passion, but you don't smile. Yeah. So why would I, as a 7-time Mr. Olympia, be able to make a younger Phil Heath want to compete if I'm like, this sucks, but I did it anyway? It's like, no. Did I enjoy every step on that cardio? No. Did I enjoy the heaviest leg days? No, initially. Then I learned to love it. I learned to know that, wow, I was chosen to do something very unique. I'll be damned if I don't give it everything I have. Because at some point in time, this bodybuilding thing is going to end. But I don't deserve, I don't deserve the next chapter if I don't show gratitude for this current season.
Wow. Yeah.
Powerful.
Like, I don't like the greatest version, right? Yeah. We're talking about at the end of the life. Man upstairs shows you who you could be. Yeah. The reason why you didn't hit that mark is because you didn't give yourself permission to do it in the first place. And you thought that, like when I said I wanted to win 10 Mr. Olympias, the reason why I said that is because it's never been done. Yeah. I got 7. Yeah. In case in point, there was a bodybuilder, I won't mention his name, but I remember him winning 1, and he said, man, I'm so glad I just won this 1. Yeah. If, he's just like, probably just speaking through his emotions, and maybe there's some real to this. He's like, man, if I don't ever win again, at least I got this 1. Well, guess what? I heard that, and I said, all you will win is 1. Yeah. Because I'm going to make sure of it. Yeah. Yeah. So you got to mind your words. Yeah. Yeah. The universe hears it.
So when you talk about that gratitude, that last title that the movie is so great about, I didn't know the story, how it ended, until I saw the show. And I thought you were going to get that 8th title. I'm like, this is just one of those great American stories of victory at the very end. But I actually felt like at the end you won because you did that last title for you. That was sort of your finding joy in it. And it was a different mindset than the first 7.
It really was. And, training for the 7th, you realize what's on the line. And to me, it was being tied with Arnold Schwarzenegger. I mean, that's like, wow. Right?
Yeah. Terminator.
Exactly. So
Governor.
you're thinking, okay, no matter what, I'm tied with him.
Yeah.
Now you go for 8, you don't get it in 2018. You now have your second hernia surgery. You sit out all of 2019 and you decide through a global freaking pandemic that you're just going to make a comeback. And I thought the average person would have retired after they won their 7th, knowing that after my 7th, I had to go to surgery that following week.
Yeah.
The average person probably would have said, man, just retire, quit while you're ahead.
Yeah.
And I had some really good friends in very high places that said, oh, yeah, you should just retire and go do movies and this and that.
Yeah.
But I know you feel like you're going to want to go for 8. And I go, yes, because I don't want to live with the regret of not trying.
Yeah. You got to know where it is.
I got to know where it is.
Yeah.
And through, the pandemic, I was like, well, this definitely wasn't advantageous for me to make a comeback. But what if?
You were at a gym and it was dark.
Pitch black, man.
iPhone light.
Shout out to the freaking stupid sheriffs over
Yeah.
in Jefferson County in Colorado for making it so where I couldn't go train, right?
Yeah.
But that was something that I thought was so relatable to everyone, not just in Colorado, but around the world. We all
went
suffered.
through that.
We all went through it.
It was awful.
And I didn't want it was very awful. To have to train with an iPhone light at 11 o'clock at night and park your car 2 blocks down so then they didn't realize it was you.
Yeah.
But then I thought, but this is what professionals do.
Yeah.
This is what someone with the focus of being the best in the world would do. And when you say that you're a beacon of hope, I would have to ask myself this, like, do you really think you're a champion? A champion would be resilient through this stuff. And in fact, I smiled. I was like, because people were like, oh, he's going to make a comeback. He hasn't been on stage in 26, 27 months. Things change and this, that. I was like, I'm still Phil Heath.
Yeah.
I'm still me. And no matter what happens, I'm still me. You may not see where my victory is in my head. And of course, I'm not, in my opinion, I'm probably the most competitive guy that has graced that stage because I just wanted it so bad. But if you say you're the most competitive person, why does it always have to be when you feel good? Michael Jordan did the flu game.
Yeah.
He could have quit. Brett Favre could have quit when his dad died and still threw those touchdowns.
Yeah.
People go through stuff. So you can't call yourself a real champion if you're not willing to endure some hardship and still show up and then show out.
That is strong. You said there's this transition here, talent plus hard work equals it's over. And you said with a competitive spirit, the talent and the hard work equal that success, owning it all. Gratitude and faith
Yes.
are the things that make the difference. Being grateful for it. And gratitude, as you describe it, that's part of what makes you appreciate the moment. And I know we touched a little bit about that, but the gratitude and faith part.
I think a lot of people, including myself, because of you just wanting to win, you're just focusing on just to be first.
Yeah.
And then, I talk about a hollow victory because you're already thinking about the next day. It's like the movie, there's a movie called Pacific Rim.
Oh, yeah.
So, with the kaijus and all this other stuff, and they're trying to kill these aliens and stuff.
Yep.
Well, what happens every time they get a call, they got to kill them. They kill them, and then they say, reset the clock.
Yeah.
So that means
It's always impending.
Don't rest on your last victory.
Yeah.
Because you got another battle ahead. That is very daunting
Yeah. And exhausting.
and very exhausting. But I still believe that you should have a moment to celebrate. I don't think I celebrated maybe enough of, let's say, quality celebration. It doesn't have to be a week long of like pulling maybe a J.R. Smith where you're still holding the NBA title 2 weeks later with your shirt off, running around town. No, I'm saying in the moment, enjoy that moment.
Yeah.
Like really enjoy it. It would be like, if you won the NBA championship or you won the Stanley Cup, like enjoy it to the fullest. And then maybe 3 days later, you're like, well, time for off season, got to get ready. But I enjoyed it. I didn't do that for a lot of those wins. And because I was programmed to think next. And it was almost embedded into my brain that that's how you have to be. Well, I can tell you, I probably could have enjoyed a little bit more because I was the guy that would win the Olympia and 2 weeks later go, let's say on a family vacation, I take my wife out to something. Oh yeah, I'm going to spend this money right. And I'm going to take my wife out and do this stuff. Let me tell you, I remember taking her to this amazing experience, and I had to apologize because for 8 straight days, I was just vegged out. This is me, just numb.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh crap. First of all, I just wasted a lot of money.
A lot of money.
A lot of money.
He about said the dollar amount, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It was a lot of money.
A lot of money. And now I got to redo it.
Yeah.
Because I got to give her an experience.
Yeah.
Because she endured that stuff with me.
Yeah.
And I got to let her know that she's valid. Yeah. She's validated. She's important. And, you learn lessons in life with the price. Some are inexpensive. That one's a very expensive lesson, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I learned right away. I was like, gratitude, you got to have it. You got to be able to say, all right, the show is over, whether you won or you lost. Thank God you have enough money to go travel the world and go experience something, but really experience it. Really
live in the moment.
Live in the moment. Yeah. Really enjoy that cocktail or enjoy that walk, enjoy that cruise.
Yeah.
Enjoy putting on the clothes that you normally wouldn't wear because you're now in a different climate. Like, enjoy it all, because life can change and we've all seen it happen. So,
dude, what is it about human nature? I love what you're saying here. Brene Brown talks about this as about foreboding joy. Like, you think about your kids and you're grateful for your kids, and then you think, well, my gosh, they could go out on the car and get in a car accident, right? Mm-hmm. We take that away from ourselves in the moment because there's something so vulnerable about celebrating, right? If I celebrate my 6th win, it's going to take away the possibility of the 7th.
Yeah,
what is it about that? Why do we do that?
We make it seem like we lose our edge, right? Like, oh, well, don't celebrate too much. It's like, okay, so then you don't, and you'll be the person still talking about high school to your friends 30 years later.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We all know those people.
We know those guys, right?
Yeah.
I don't have to talk about certain things because I can say, like, when we won state in high school, the one thing I didn't get to experience was the actual joy of partying with my teammates in the locker room, because I had to get 6 stitches right here because I got elbowed during the 4th quarter. So they had to stitch me up as coach is doing a speech, and I didn't experience that, but I still remember what it felt like to get the ring. And I remember having those moments with my teammates who I still chat with on the phone to this day on a group chat. And, I don't have to relive like Uncle Rico type of talk. You don't have to do it like that. I can say, been there, done that.
Yeah.
What's new, guys? Like, what other wins can we stack? Doesn't mean that it didn't matter. It's just, I feel like, again, we always circle around, did we really enjoy it in the moment? And I don't have children, but what I will say is that, God willing, I have a child or kids, I want them to know that I was present.
Yeah.
And I want them to know what it felt like. The first ice cream cone.
That's cool.
The first ride on the bicycle. The first.
You were there for that.
And I was there, and I wanted them to win. Like, okay, you fell on the bike. You good?
Yeah.
Tell me what's going on. You be all right. I think I'm more primed for that now because of the work that I've had to do, that I chose to do with my wife.
Yeah.
And, that's how we will contribute to society, in my opinion, is to try to become more secure adults through therapy, and to continuously work on self-development, to understand that life is not easy, but let's not make it hard.
How'd you find a good therapist?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that was grace of God on that one, man. Because my wife, like, she had a couple girlfriends. One in particular was seeing someone like more like performance coaching and stuff. And her and her husband were they just got engaged, and, and they were trying to figure out, like, okay, they're both athletes. And when you have 2 high performing people, they usually don't work.
No.
We see it like in Hollywood and this and
crush
that. Like,
each other.
Yeah. Like, so you got to have some tools.
Yeah.
And really taking it, like, because, I've told some of my friends, like, oh, yeah, my wife and I are counselors. Like, well, what'd you do? I'm like, dude, it isn't like that.
Yeah.
It's like,
It's not a problem to fix. It's development.
It's preventative.
Yeah.
It's knowing that, like, if I have tools, then I know how to communicate better. What will my life be like if I can communicate really good?
Yeah.
Not become some mind reader, because I can't do that. But what if I could communicate better with my wife? That means I know how to communicate my feelings to myself, to my wife, to coworkers, to fans, here, that's really neat. 'Cause now I'm at peace with myself.
What I love about that is at a moment in your life, you said, I will be a pro at something. That pro became bodybuilding. That was basketball for a period of time. And now it's becoming, in this next phase, connecting and communicating with other people, giving back to younger kids.
Yes.
And helping light the world up, not only through your wife, who in the show was your girlfriend, right?
Yep.
But elsewhere. Thinking about kids, a question from our audience when we said we were going to interview you. Some kids look at you and they're like, my gosh, he's ripped, right?
Man.
Do you recommend kids try to look like you? Or if you're a teenager in high school or in college, like, what's that path look like?
You know, I've been asked the question of like, would I have my kids or like, you know, and I'd say no, because of who their father is, right?
Okay.
I don't want them to have that type of pressure.
Yeah. Because they have the genes, presumably.
Yeah, presumably, but we don't know that, right?
Yeah.
So, but even if they did, like, I think it would be even greater is if they blazed their own trail.
Yeah.
But if they wanted to follow in my footsteps, that's what they're going to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was able to do it through a different adaptation of, you know, having parents that provided, but all those different whys in the road are unique.
Yeah.
So you're trying to do the same output as me, but you don't want to go through,
You got your own path.
that would mean like you would have to experience almost like the same traumatic events to get you there too. And I don't think that's smart. What I think is great is if you said, yeah, you know, that, or like even kids nowadays, they say, hey, I want to be Mr. Olympia. I say, okay, we got to go through the 7 layers of why. I need to understand why this matter to you so much, because here it is. There's been 18 champions in 60 years.
Yeah.
So that's less than the teams that have won the Super Bowl, right? There's been more than 18 teams that won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So this is where it becomes extremely unique. So then you have to understand the odds are not in your favor. So then, and nowadays we probably have to say this to all these kids. If there was no YouTube money, if there was no monetization on social media, why would you continue to do the same things you do?
Yeah.
And why?
And there has to be a little part of it. You said it's talent and hard work. Talent is a little bit of it. Genes are a little bit of it, right? To get to the point.
That's what your talent is, for sure.
But you can also build to get there. So, Mike, before we get into the last question, we appreciate you being here. Mike, you get the last question. It's interesting. In professional sports, you wear a jersey, and at some point, you take that jersey off.
Yes.
In your professional sport, it's your body.
Yeah.
You talked about it. It's incredibly vulnerable. You were naked in front of people, basically. I've never worn a...
mankini. Yeah. You know, I'll say it for you.
I have never done that. And it's fascinating to me. You're in incredible shape. I won't even start, right? But in this post phase, like, how do you transition? You talked a little bit about your workouts today. Like, you're going to turn 80.
Yes.
Right? What does that look like for a bodybuilder who can't take off that jersey? Like, that history will follow you, right?
I think instead of saying I got to take this off, just say it always will be embedded into my system. Like, it was a chapter, it was a season.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it, and I'm willing to experience maybe some unknowns, which is life after, and create a new goal. You should create a new goal. For me, and this is recent. It's been 4 years since I competed. What's wild is that I could still do it, right?
Yeah.
I still have
you could turn it on at any moment.
I could turn it on in another year and say, I'm doing the Olympia again. But then it's like, but why would I do that?
Yeah.
And then and if I do, that probably means that it's because I'm afraid of actually experiencing the next chapter.
You're avoiding the next chapter.
A lot of people stay in that same relationship. They stay in that same dead end job because they're afraid.
Yep.
And you got to just say, you know what, enough is enough. And I want to have the spice of life.
Yeah.
Which is variety of some sort. So you got to be willing to try something new, to experience something better. And for me right now, I get to, instead of compete at the Olympia, I get to commentate at the Olympia.
Yeah.
I get to edify those athletes while still providing constructive criticism. And those athletes know that it's coming from a 7-time champion who has no horse in this race that just wants to pour into them. And then I also this year, I'll just say this because I'm excited about it, is that I get to be inducted into the International Sports Hall of Fame the same week.
Congratulations. Cool. Wow.
Yeah. So it's a huge honor. I'm very thankful for it. You know, people like Marcus Allen has been a part of it, and Edward St. Pierre from UFC, my graduating class. will be Brian Shaw, World's Strongest Man, Misha Tate, UFC champion, JJ Perry, who was a great martial artist, did a lot of stunt choreography, Jim Plunkett, and a few others. But I didn't get there by just being a basketball player, right?
Yeah.
I got there by saying, basketball didn't work out, stepped into bodybuilding, and then trying to expand on that, doing the public speaking that I currently do.
Yeah.
But it requires a lot of self-awareness, a lot of self-development, and I really freaking love it.
Yeah.
Because I know that there's another person out there that is so freaking stuck, that has been beat down by other people and continues to listen to that stupid noise from others and in their own head. But if I can help them tune their frequency, they get to experience something even better. And that's living a more abundant life. And I say, like, I'm still learning too. And I'm just passionate about it, man. I just think I feel like there needs to be more men that want to help people than to just stay hurt in their own feelings and just stay rigid and do it out of, oh, well, I want to be somebody. No, guys, you're already somebody. What can you do for somebody else? If you can focus on doing something for yourself and helping somebody else, don't worry about money. That's going to happen. That's just a law of attraction, in my opinion. You don't have to shame people, guilt people, manipulate people to pay you. If you provide value and you show up with value, they're going to be like, I'm buying that car from that person because they're trying to tell me something that I just didn't know. And they're passionate about it.
Yep.
So that's really how I approach this phase currently in my life.
I'll tell you, amazing to hear and understand your journey. And in particular, to hear how right now you are suppressing the fear for that next stage. You're recognizing our tendency as human beings to numb, to resist going into that next phase. It's an inspiration. Mike, last question.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil Heath, this is very fascinating, but I've noticed a pattern over the years with our guest speakers that we brought in, all very, very wildly successful people, all walks of life. And that's a mindset of gratitude.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you to take us in closing to a really tough time in your life professionally. And you've won 7 times, Mr. Olympia. You're on stage going for 8.
Yeah.
And you had to shift your mindset because you have all eyes on you. You're a mentor.
Yep.
I mean, everybody's looking at you. Talk to us about that mindset shift there. Talk to us about how maybe grace, humility, and then gratitude played a role at that hard time.
We're talking about 2018? Oh. Ooh. So I'm standing on that stage, and at that point in time, I kind of realized the writing's on the wall, that you're going to lose. But you need to hear it, and you don't want to hear. It's like you're facing a firing squad.
Yeah.
And you're like, just kind of get it over with. You're tense.
Yeah.
And when they announced his name, I was just like, damn it. I had to take it all in. Initially, you think that people are laughing at you and this, that. Now I realize that ain't it. They're just cheering for the new person. They're happy for that new person. You also are a part of history. The champ has been dethroned. That normally does not happen.
Yeah.
But take it all in.
Yeah.
What did you hear? And it was loud. I was like, damn, like, man, y'all cheered for me like that before, but man, like, and then I had to say, you know what? Just be still, dude. And just, how did you feel? Like, and it was like milliseconds, right? You're going through this. And I was like, just breathe, dude. It's his time. You're going to have to congratulate him. He did his job. You did your job. They chose him. And I think that's the hardest part with bodybuilding, is that you can still do your job and you not get the nod. And unlike any other sport, that's why I think bodybuilding is probably the hardest that gets unrecognized as that, because you have to deal with the emotional intelligence. You're naked pretty much. And you're being judged on how you actually look with no filter on Instagram.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So no one wants to be judged like that. So you're automatically going to feel like you're not good enough. You're crap. You're horrible. And then you have to learn to breathe and say, you know what? It was his turn. And maybe tomorrow wouldn't be his turn, but for right now, it's his turn. So you hug him. I said it looked great.
Yeah.
And I got on that one knee that I would get on, and I would pray to God saying thank you when I won. And I said, and I'll be damned if I don't get on one knee and point up and say, thank you for getting me through this, because I did my best with what I had. Although I didn't like that moment, I wanted to win 8. I had to be a man and a professional and say, hey, are you really a fake Christian at this moment? Nah, dude, like you're going to acknowledge that you're still the greatest, if not the greatest of all time with 7 Mr. Olympias. And you're just a human being that lost. Yeah,
absolutely. And the reason I think it's appropriate to close with that is it shows the incredible heart that you have and the incredible human being that you are, Phil Heath. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you.
Thanks for being on the podcast. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
A big thanks to Phil Heath and Mike Van Ryn for contributing to this week's episode. Until next week, how are you driving vision today?